Okay, so we've done a bunch of things. We've collected some points, we've laid out some points. Some of our laid out points were intolerance, one of them wasn't. And maybe we're done with work for today and we want to get this information back to the office, back to the CAD department, the BIM team, whoever, project manager, whoever it is, we want to get this information back to them. Okay, so one of the main ways that we can do that is we can export some things out of this file, not only to that team, but we could also export things to other teams. For example, if we had a general contractor that said, I want to see all the points that you laid out, we can do that. And we can do that pretty easily. So going on that example, I'm going to go to More and go to Jobs. And we've got some options here, open, create, import, but one of the things I want to focus on in this video is the export. All right, so export, there's a couple things that we can export. Actually, to be very specific, there's three file types that we can export, and there's three types of points that we can export. Okay, so the first things first, though, I need to decide what I'm sending out and who I'm sending it to. Okay, so in the example of the GC asked us for, I want to see a copy of everything that you laid out. The best way to give that to him, provided he doesn't have a robotic total station like we do, is a CSV file, comma separated values, and that's a file that can be opened up in an Excel spreadsheet. In that Excel spreadsheet, it's going to show him how many points we laid out, what our accuracy tolerances were, etc. So to export a CSV, I can simply give it a name. All right, so I'm going to call it today, and I'm going to export destination. All right, so this is something that this is the default folder. It's always going to put stuff there. If you want to change that, that's fine. So you click on this ellipse here, and we've got the option. We can either save it to our device, we can save it to a USB stick if one is plugged in, and also if we were at a connected to the Wi-Fi and we were connected to our Trimble Connect account, that option would also be on this list. Okay, so we've got a bunch of different places that we can put it depending on who we're sending it to. Maybe I just want to put it on the device and then I can copy it out later. All right, so I've given it a name, I've given it a location. All right, so I'm fine with that. And now what do I want to send out? Okay, so I want to send out a CSV file and I want it to have my staked points. All right, so I'm giving the general contractor a CSV file with staked points, and I can hit export. Blue toast pops up letting me know what it's doing. Hey, I'm exporting this file. And green toast, file exported successfully. Great. Now I can go to the Windows side of things and I can copy that out of the one folder and into the other folder, okay? Or onto a thumb drive or into an email or whatever it is. So where that file is located, if I go to minimize here, and I've got a shortcut, Trimble Field Link shortcut, and this particular folder has 4 additional folders into it. Reports, jobs, images, and exports. And if I open up this export, there's the CSV file that I just created. Okay, just to kind of show you guys where this stuff is located on the Windows side of things. Okay, so back into Trimble Field Link. So that's one thing I can do. Another thing I might want to do is, let's say that I'm done with this level and I want to move up to the next level, but those control points that I created on the job site maybe are going to be usable on that next level. So before I get out of this file, one of the things I can do is go again to More and Jobs and Export. And in here I can say, okay, I just want to export my control points and as a CSV file, all right? And I'll give it a name, right? So maybe my name is control points for job. And again, I can select a different folder if I want to. I'd like to keep it as the default. I know where it is. And then I can say export. What it's going to do is any of those points that had a triangle on them are going to get exported out only. So it's not going to export all the points that I staked out. It's not going to export any of the points from level 1 because that might not apply to level 2, but I do need the control points up there. So then when I get into level 2, I can go to, and I believe we talked about this in another video where we went to Jobs and Import, and then we can go and look for that CSV file, which here it is, and then we can import that into our level 2 drawing. Okay, so pretty quickly we can get stuff out of one drawing and into the other drawing. All right. The other thing that we can do here under Jobs and Export is we can export a DWG file or a SketchUp file, DWG or SketchUp. Some of you might be using SketchUp, which is great. I'm just going to stick with the DWG file, and what I can do now is I can export a DWG file. What the DWG file is going to do is it's going to export out all my points, and it replaces the point with a block, and that DWG file then can be used really by anybody who has AutoCAD, and they can overlay that DWG file onto their working model and see where those points are that I measured. So let's say, for example, that you've got a building that is an as-built. It's already constructed, and you've got maybe the structure built in your CAD model, but you want to see where these measurements that I took of the existing ductwork and maybe the equipment pads and where are the existing columns, because you want to compare the as-built, how we measured it and how it actually was built in the field, and you want to compare that to maybe the architect's drawings. So you can export out a DWG file and see how those lines and those points compare to the actual CAD model. Okay, so that's kind of another handy feature too. Again, select DWG, and in this case you can say it's either staked or design data. In this case it would probably be staked data. And then you can say export. And what it'll do, again, it's exporting a file. In this case it's exporting a DWG or a drawing file for AutoCAD. You could also bring it into Revit if that happens to be your flavor of CAD software. So just a few ways that you can export out of this drawing to get it back to the team or collaborate with other teams. Now, there is another piece to this. This particular file that we're in is called a TFL file, Trimble Field Link. And if you're done with it and you don't want to export anything, if your CAD department has Trimble Field Points software, that's point creation software that lives on top of AutoCAD or Revit. If the CAD department has that particular software, you can simply give them back the TFL file. Okay? Just give them back the TFL file. You don't have to export anything. You simply close out of this, right? Go to your Windows where the file is located and give that file, just copy and paste it back to them or simply move it back to them, whether that be in an email or a thumb drive or Trimble Connect, and get it back to them. In Trimble Field Points, they can then import that file and see how well you laid out those points. So what I mean by that is that one point that we staked out of tolerance. Okay, and I'm going to zoom into it. This point here, we staked this point out of tolerance. If I have Trimble Field Points and I import this TFL file back into Trimble Field Points, it's going to put a revision cloud around that point in AutoCAD or Revit to let the CAD department know that this point has been staked out of tolerance. And the nice thing about that feature is if I hit Zoom Extents, the CAD department doesn't have to search its way through a whole mess of points. All they have to do is look for the revision clouds. And that revision cloud might be pretty important, especially if it was a standpipe that's going to go from the basement all the way 30 stories up. And if on level 17 it moved, somebody might want to know about that, especially if we're doing prefabrication. So exporting, hopefully pretty easy. Again, more Jobs and Export. So you've got a few options. And remember, if you have Trimble Field Points in the CAD side of things, and you might have to ask the CAD department about if they have it, just give them the TFL file. There really isn't even an export that you have to give them, although you're technically giving them back the information that you did.